My name is Mark Stannard. I use he, him pronouns. I live on the corner of North Winooski and Decatur. And thank you for coming. On behalf of the steering committee, Lauren, Kaysen, and Charlie, we all thank you for coming, and we look forward to having a good meeting. I think this agenda looks pretty good. So first, if someone could just raise their hand to make a motion to adopt or approve the agenda in previous minutes. Doesn't. Do you have to make a motion? Yeah. Well, can I have your name? C? C. Thank you, C. Okay. So with that being said, we'll move along to the public forum. We ask for 2 minutes max per person. Before you present, if you could just state your full name, pronouns, street, and ward, and we'll open it up to public forum if anyone has anything to say.
Okay, does anybody have a public forum thing that they want to say?
Any public forum? Announcements? Is this the first?
Hi, folks who are still here. Lucy Gluck. I'm holding the resolution that's going to be up before City Council from Progressives about the right to free speech, and it's super important. So if you can check in through City Council this coming Monday or the Monday after, and either online or show up in person to speak in support of this very important resolution. We need free speech. So please keep an eye out for that and work on that too. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe we have another one in the back.
Hi, I'm Roxanne. I live in Ward 2 on Pitkin Street. I'm just sharing an idea. So with the overwhelming news cycle, one thing I started doing with a few friends is to have a news club where every 2 weeks we get together and share a piece of news that we individually went in depth on, like researched a particular thing that happened or a subject to follow. So basically the idea is that instead of trying to catch every headline that passes by and getting completely overwhelmed by that and not actually learning or absorbing the information, what's helped me is to do this. So it's kind of like going back to school, I made a PowerPoint the last time, and and it's just shared with 3 friends, and teaching or sharing helps you figure out what you do and don't know, so it's helped us to kind of dig deeper into some things rather than just consume the news that's thrown at us. We're asking ourselves questions, which maybe you all already do, but I find it easy to just skim through all of it. So I just wanted to share that idea. It's nice to do. We've done it with like 4 of us, and it's been fun, and it's felt kind of comforting, and then you know that your friend might be looking up another piece of news. You don't have to worry about that one. You can find out when you see them, rather than try to pay attention to everything. So just want to share that. It's been fun to do and helpful.
Thank you. Excellent idea. Anyone else with a public forum announcement?
Charlie has a small one. So again, I'm Charlie G, and even though I live in Ward 2, but I've worked at the Ward 3 polls for a long time, and they're trying to reorganize, and so we have to build up our staff for the Ward 3 polling place again. Okay, so if anybody's interested in working at the polling place, they can talk to me or they can call Sarah Montgomery at the city clerk's office. But we really do need to get more people from Ward 3 to work at the Ward. More people from Ward 3 to work at the Ward 3 polls instead of having people like me from Ward 2 work there. So if you're interested in working at the polls, like in the morning or in the afternoon or in the evening on that one day, or if you're interested in being a manager, like an inspector, I can show you how to do that too. So we definitely need people in Ward 3, and by the way, Ward 8 as well. So I'm just letting you know I'm going to say this at probably every NPA meeting between now and February. So we need people to work at the polls for Ward 3. Thank you.
All right, so,
Hi, I'm Megan Humphrey, Ward 2, she, her, St. Louis Street. And I just want to remind everybody that Green Up Day is on Saturday, May 3rd, and there are lots of efforts all over the city on that day, and a lot of folks are doing some efforts with their jobs too. So please help clean up the winter garbage. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Chris. I live on Decatur Street. I think it's Ward 2. I always get it mixed up after 30 years. One, May Day's really good. And two, I just wanted to congratulate Megan Humphrey on some big award she just got at the State House. I don't even remember what it is, but all your community work.
Just to complete Chris's thought, congratulations, Megan. 25 years she started HANDS, which means helping and nurturing diverse seniors. And Megan would organize major food and holiday events for seniors. And she just was a force. And convened cadres of volunteers.
okay. I also just thought of one. Tax day is on Tuesday, so get your taxes in. And we have Earth Day coming up too. So without further ado, Sophie Sauvé will be here giving us an update on the Pomeroy Park development.
Absolutely. The question is more, is it okay for you to sit here?
Great. Hello, everybody. Thanks for hosting me again. Here in Ward 2. Happy to be here and provide another update on the Pomeroy Park Playground Replacement Project. I was here in January to provide a first overview of the project, and now we're just giving you the next steps that we're up to for the replacement. So just going to go through a little bit of background for those who weren't here or don't recall. First slide is why Pomeroy Playground now. Many of you will probably know that in 2021 we had to remove the tot lot in the playground. It was no longer safe, and we could no longer find replacement parks for the playground, so it was removed completely. The only structures that were remaining were for the older age groups. And during that year, we received a lot of requests through our Penny for Parks program. If you're not familiar with it, the Penny for Parks program has a community request possibility, so anybody can submit a request throughout the year for a park change or an addition like soccer goals or whatnot, but a lot of people in the community requested that we replace the tot lot at that time. And just FYI, funds are set aside every year for that community request line. So if you think of anything, please submit them anytime. So we took those funds and we worked together, put together an RFP to replace the tot lot. But unfortunately, in that time, 2021, 22, post-COVID, contractors were super busy and had lots of work. And this was too small of a project, so we didn't receive any bids. So going back to the drawing board, our team looked at all the other parts of the playground that would eventually need replacement and reprioritized our capital plans to replace the entire playground at once to not only make it a more competitive project to bid out, but also it's more efficient in terms of time and disruption to the playground itself. So that's where we're at. Just a little bit of site history for history buffs out there. Where Pomeroy is currently in 1872, that's a hand-drawn map. There was no street structure there yet. There were no homes, but to the west, things were building up. So things were starting to build in the eastern direction of Burlington. This Sanborn map from 1926 shows the Pomeroy school that was on the site, and the parcel is as it stands today, which is this weird, almost full rectangular shape with a little cutout. And the Pomeroy school is also shown in this aerial from 1942. So the Pomeroy School was there from 1870s, expanded in 1899, and then was torn down in 1959. If anybody knows why it was torn down, I'd love to hear about that. I've been researching, but so far haven't gotten any leads on that one. But as you can see, the Pomeroy School faced Booth Street, and there was a driveway here, and we still have the remnants of the curb cut. And just keep that in mind for the future slides I'm going to show you. So here is an aerial from 1962 where you can see that the parcel is now part of the city, no longer with the schools, but there aren't any amenities, but you can see that there's marks from potentially people playing baseball. We have anecdotes I've seen of football and skating happening in the park. And during that time, the city was busy expanding its park system, essentially, and the city had purchased Leddy Park and Oakledge Park, which are big parcels, and there were several smaller neighborhood parks like Pomeroy that hadn't gotten any investments. So a lot of the historical papers that we have on file show that the neighborhood was requesting some investment in Pomeroy Park specifically. So finally in 1975, the city received land and water conservation funds. It's a federal fund that goes through the state that we rely on a lot for major capital investments. The last of these grants that we received in recent years was for the Oakledge Universally Accessible Playground. So you can see that throughout the years we've really counted on this as a federal pass through the state and good deal of money. So at that time, the basketball court was formalized, as you can see down here in this aerial. The path that still exists in Pomeroy Park was constructed. The playground was on the south side, and there was a shelter over the path. Anecdotal from our staff, the shelter was eventually taken down because it's believed that the foundation of the school remains underground. So there is some settling that happens in that area and can explain where the path still today does a bit of a dip, and there's some water that collects there, just FYI. So the existing conditions today, as many of you know, the path is still there, the basketball courts are still there, there's lots of trees around, and there's the playground kind of tucked in the back of the park, behind lots of shrubs and a chain link fence. Sorry, couldn't think of the word of chain link. But this is the area of the playground. The red outline is where the tot lot used to be. And then the remaining parts are the rest of the playground. Part of our work the design team, planning team at BPRW is to do a site analysis of the existing conditions on the site. And what we see is that there's a big barrier of visibility in that section of the park towards the playground because of the overgrown shrubs. There's 2 layers of them. Even now, when there aren't any leaves on them, you can't really see through. And there's a chain link fence, which is great if you want to contain things, but not great if you want to see what's happening in the back there. And the surfacing of the playground is wood chips, which makes the playground not fully accessible. In addition, the entrance to the playground, which has a concrete path to it, there's a 5 to 6 inch drop into the playground, which also makes it inaccessible. There are benches that are located around the playground, but there aren't any paths to them. So if you have you are using a mobility device or you have a stroller, it's not very fun to push through there. So as I mentioned, this middle image shows that drop, although there's a lot of leaves that are covering that drop right now. And we have the curb cut that existed for that driveway to the school is not located adjacent to the path, directly in front of the path. So what happens is when our city teams are plowing, they're going over the curb cut, but then having to go through the grass because of the turning radius to get onto the path to plow it, essentially. So it's a challenge for that, but also there aren't any accessible parking spaces adjacent to the park. And as I mentioned, there are no paths leading to the benches. Other concerns, we've heard from the community through feedback that it's a dark, hidden space, especially in winter where we don't have as much light. The hedge, as I mentioned here, really blocks the view inside. And then we have an enclosed area that's been used for dogs running off leash, and it's a conflict with playgrounds when you have children who are on the ground and potentially eating things off the ground. So as part of BPRW's going forward for playground replacements, we're using 7 universal design principles for all of our playgrounds so that we can make it more equitable, inclusive spaces for our community. So those 7 principles include equitable use, flexibility in use, simple and intuitive use, perceptible information, tolerance for error, low physical effort, and size and space for approach and use. And if you Google 7 principles of universal design, you can read more about it. But that's just to give you an overview of what we're thinking about when we're designing this space. So here's a concept that we've come to develop. When we go to bid out the project in the next couple weeks, we'll be providing this information to the potential bidders, but essentially they'll take this and then identify the equipment that they're suggesting for the playground space. So that's not something that we're going to identify as part of our process, but that's the next step. So in conversations, not only with community members, but also groups that use the playground, such as preschools and daycares, one of their concerns was definitely to continue that enclosure for keeping kids in, because there are, even though the playground is located in the back of the park and not near the streets, there are runners. So their concern is if they're watching 6 kids and they have one bolt, what happens if there's another one that bolts? So really keeping that sense of enclosure was super important to them, and we definitely heard that. And then with applying the 7 principles of universal design, we just want to make sure that there's space for activities for all different types of users. So here we're including some spaces that are more for individual use. Think about maybe if you've been to Champlain Street Park recently, there's a little, kind of looks like an orb, and it's something someone can sit in and spin in or just hang out in. So to have that kind of feeling of being in the playground but still being a part if you're not sure you want to participate in the bigger structures. And then we have an area for the tots, so the 2 to 5-year-olds, area for the bigger kids, so 5+, and then some group structures that could be used for multi-use. One thing we've been hearing a lot from older kids, tweens, teens, etc., is that they still like to swing, they still like to play on play structures, but they're not made for bigger sizes. So we really want to emphasize this for everybody. And then again, the swinging is really important to a lot of people for many reasons, and we're dedicating an area at the back of the playground for that, which is where the swings currently are. Because in case you don't know how playgrounds work, there's a safety zone around every piece of equipment, and swings have that biggest footprint, so we want to make sure there's enough space for that to happen. And the not dotted but dashed line around the park I should back up. The blue area around the park playground area is poured-in-place safety surfacing. So rather than wood chips, we're moving towards a Unitarian surface so that it's easier for everybody to access and to walk or roll on. And then with that, we can kind of play with the ground plane as well, because you can integrate colors into those, into the poured-in-place surfacing. And the black line is to indicate that we would do a loop around the playground. So children who don't want, or anyone who doesn't want to be on the structures can also play with the surface as an extra layer of play. But also we heard from some of the care centers that they bring kids with the little push bikes, and so we give them a kind of a racetrack to go around. So just thinking about how to use that. It's already going to have some color to it, so let's add a bit more splash to it and make it even more exciting. And then in the middle or top of the playground, we're thinking of adding some height change to the surface. So again, playing with the ground plane, not thinking 3 feet or 6 feet, but just like little bumps, because we heard that was also, in terms of kids developing their motor skills and everything else, it's something exciting for them to kind of feel like they're at the top of something. But we want to make sure it's accessible to everybody, so we won't be going terribly high, and we don't want to block the view into the playground. And then thinking about the future, around the edge of the park, currently there's a lot of older sugar maples. They're mature and they provide an awesome canopy to this space, but eventually they will decline. So we're working with the arborist to determine how to interplant around that edge, but in also thinking about the middle of the playground and how we can grow some canopy there to add some shade and just excitement to the middle of the playground area. And we are working with DPW to move the curb cut to align with the path as a first step. And then one other thing we heard about the kind of feeling of darkness in the back of that playground. The best part is that there was already a light there. It had been, we'll say, taken down by lots of BBs, is what I heard. But our team energized it, so it's currently in working order. So that has definitely the potential to change that feeling of dark space in the back of the playground. So hopefully we'll get some feedback on that soon. We've met with the subcommittee of the Accessibility Committee of the city to go through these intentions for the plan, and gotten feedback from them, which we'll continue to integrate. And we'll also be checking in with them when we receive the bids in from the different vendors to evaluate the different proposals that they'll put forward, to make sure it's we're not missing something in terms of all the components of the design. And that's all I have for today, but hopefully we'll see construction happening before the end of summer. Any questions?
Perfect. Thank you, Lauren.
Sorry. Try it. It's on.
Cool. Hi, my name is Noah. I live on Booth Street, and my house has been directly adjacent to the Pomeroy Park and the playground for the last 3 years. So I know the Pomeroy Park really well, love the park. I'm completely enamored with how much use it gets in the small amount of space that it is. One thing, and I talked with my neighbors a lot, and we had a really long discussion about what was going to happen at the park, and we all filled out the survey. One thing that we all talked about is how the shrubbery that is too thick and does obscure the playground is an amazing resource for the park, because it blocks. One thing amazing about Pomeroy Park is it can be used by many generations all at once. and that double shrub acts as, yes, a sight barrier, but also a sound barrier. I work with teens, and the basketball court is a really beloved space by both teens, young adults, and adults alike. And like, I feel like the shrubbery, and a lot of my neighbors agree, and I'd be curious to see the data results and why that's being opted, but I feel like it's jeopardizes some of the intergenerational capacity of the park. To take that out, you lose sound barrier and sight barrier, where young adults are being young adults, and then you have an area that's very designated for young people, and I think that's really important. So just curious if there's any flexibility on that, or like that design feature. Again, just weighing in on that. And the other part around the light in it's very institutional right now. It's a very cold light. And I think I agree that warming up the park at night is a lovely idea, but right now it feels quite cold. And it does shine directly into the houses, but that's not what I'm complaining about. I think a warm light would really help its usefulness, if that's what the neighborhood has requested.
Regarding the light, I can certainly talk to our team, the electrician, and see what else can be done. But in the short term, it was there. With regards to the shrub, it's been a controversial issue over the years, and I definitely hear the barrier part, but we also have heard a lot about the safety part. So balancing those two is really where we're at, and trying to balance the concerns that people can't see into this space, so it prohibits them from going into it or wanting to be in it, versus the sound piece. So I don't know if in terms of the sound piece, it's about, can you clarify if it's between the two uses or between the neighbors and the basketball area?
I think it's the two uses, because there's a bunch of people, adults on the basketball court, and music and sound, and it's just like beingness that's really important on the basketball court. It's like, it is the most played basketball court in the city as a public park. I know that as a basketball player, and then I love that kids can be on the other side of the shrub and be there and be kids and not feel like there's negative interface, which I just fear will restrict the beingness of these two side-by-side communities, which is an amazing part of Pomeroy Park, that all that can be all at once.
Well, we will look at it again with that consideration in mind. You are correct in terms of basketball and playgrounds are not compatible uses, and we know that. It's just a small park to try and separate them. But maybe there's something we can do with the landform that would help, go towards that direction. And we'll also hear from the vendors for their recommendations. Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
I think we had one more.
Hi. My name is Hannah Brislin over here. I'm a resident of Ward 2. I've lived on School Street for over a decade, and Pomeroy Park is kind of basically almost diagonally right up against where I live. I want to make a notation about the light. For over a decade, I don't think I seen the light on until recently. I had concerns over the behavior in that park, in that particular area of the park overnight. I don't really care about the college kids going on the swings. Like, have fun, girls. But there was drug use going on in that back area. And so I don't disagree on the fact that the light is cold. But when I say drug use, I'm not even like talking about people, smoking pot or whatever. We're talking about the illicit drugs, the ones that are killing people across this. And I don't want, if that can help mitigate also needles that show up there, because I do and have cleaned up needles in that area of the park. It has helped. I am a night owl. I'm constantly pacing in my parking lot at night. So yeah, if you're around and you want to say hello, I'll probably be out there. But I haven't seen anything since you all swapped out the light, and I greatly appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing how Pomeroy Park expands, because I go in it every single day. And as it was stated, I think it's one of the most lively parks in the city, especially in the summer with the basketball and people's farm stand showing up. It's just a wonderful space. So I just wanted to kind of expand on your concerns, and then also just commend all the great work you all are doing.
Thanks. I'll definitely pass that on to our grounds team that switched out the light. Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Sophie. We are a bit ahead of schedule, Charles just going to give an update on the handout you all just received.
On a related subject, so I'm Charlie, and I represent Wards 2 and 3 on this little group of people who are studying what to do with a piece of the bike path, the recreation path, the walking path. So the one I'm talking about starts at about Park Street, and it follows the belt line past the new North End on the way to Colchester. And so we're studying. I just left a piece of paper on each table that has a couple little pictures on it, and all they're trying to do is to make a little hook off of that bike path so that it goes up and touches North Avenue near the high school. Okay, so I put my email address on those pieces of paper, so if anyone has any questions or input, I think that this would be a wonderful project to happen to that bike path so that it brings so many more people in a nicer way to get from Burlington to the new North End. So that's all it is. So there's 3 proposals, one of which isn't going anywhere because it's called the Bridge to Nowhere. But there's 2 proposals, and it basically comes down to safety. Like, how can you put bicyclists onto basically Route 127 for several hundred feet without getting anybody killed? Okay? So it can be very inexpensive, but making it safer is really the question. So if anybody has any interest in that expansion of the recreation path, bike path, out in the, basically follows the belt line out towards the new North End, just contact me on that. So I'm on the board that is studying that with the city officials and the developers and all that stuff. Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. Next, we have Calvin Wietrich from the Department of Public Works here to tell us about the Archibald Street Calming Project. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. My name is Calvin Wietrich. I'm an associate public works engineer at the Department of Public Works, and I'm going to discuss some traffic calming and other pieces that are going on Archibald this summer. So I'll share my screen here, and we'll get started. All right, great. All right. So starting off with some local context, you all are members of the community, so you all know these things, but generally what we're starting to look at on Archibald Street is current conditions. So we're seeing a lot of high vehicle speeds on Archibald Street. We're also seeing some significant crash history on Archibald Street, including that of some pedestrians and cyclists. Again, another major consideration of this area is Archibald Street's proximity to the Integrated Arts Academy, in addition to Roosevelt Park and the Boys and Girls Club to the north. Those are both, again, key community resources that we want to make sure are accessible and safe to get to for young students, young kids, and everyone alike. Another piece of this is the need for pavement maintenance, which we'll be getting into a little later. This project also involves the paving of Archibald Street. And something that you all might have noticed is that Archibald Street is also considerably less green than some other neighborhoods. So something that we're looking at with this project is an opportunity to maybe add some trees to Archibald Street to try to green the neighborhood, provide some shade, and provide, to improve the street in some other ways. And just last here, this being a dense residential area, we have lots of foot traffic and a significant amount of vehicle traffic and bike traffic as well. So we want to make sure that we're providing safe routes for all modes here. So digging into the data a little bit, we kind of within the Department of Public Works Transportation team, we run kind of these standard metrics to look at the street and how it qualifies for our traffic calming program. So what we've observed is the 85th percentile speed on this street is 29 miles per hour, which is obviously above our speed limit of 25 by a significant margin. It sees an average daily traffic of 4,300 vehicles per day. And then you get into the crash history. So in the past 5 years, we've seen 3 bike or pedestrian crashes and a total of 6 injury crashes in that same period. So with all these metrics too and kind of local context aside, these data do qualify Archibald Street for traffic calming. So getting into our project goals for this, one goal, reduce vehicle speeds and increase safety for all users of the road. That includes, driving, biking, walking, other modes. We're looking to also improve pedestrian safety and connectivity. With the school and the park nearby, we do have a lot of pedestrians using Archibald Street to get to those locations, and we want to make sure they can pass safely. And then third is improving pavement and overall street conditions. So that kind of encompasses our street paving project and also kind of our street greening opportunity here. So getting into a quick overview of the project. So kind of our first piece of this is adding speed tables to Archibald Street. So these speed tables are designed to be between Archibald Street's intersection with Intervale Ave and with North Winooski Ave. And that's the longest straightaway on Archibald Street, and it's the area that we've observed those highest speeds. Another piece of that is curb extensions at Intervale Ave and Archibald Street. So it's kind of, most of you have been there, it's a unique geometry intersection, right? We have kind of 2 very tight corners and then 2 very more open corners, and it's also a longer crossing distance for cars, which means it's often tough to see pedestrians. Pedestrians feel like they have a long crossing distance, and they do have a long crossing distance at that intersection. So adding curb extensions can help there to start, mitigate some of those issues that come with that. Another piece of this is a crosswalk and curb extension at the intersection of Archibald and St. Louis Street. So currently there isn't any crosswalk there, so we would be adding a crosswalk and then adding a curb extension to help shorten that crossing distance and improve the visibility of pedestrians who are crossing there. I've talked about this before, but these curb extension areas, which involves moving our curbs out into the street and adding, backfilling with topsoil and adding grass in those areas, also allow an opportunity for tree planting, which we're coordinating with our Parks Department. Just in addition, this whole project is coming in coordination with our paving team, also within the Department of Public Works this summer. And being able to do traffic calming at the same time as paving is a very cost-effective thing to do. It helps us do more for less, and it also helps reduce disruptions to the roadway during the construction process for getting both those things done. So getting into kind of our first feature here, here's just a quick drawing of what it looks like from above. You can see on the left side of the screen, you have the west side, that's Intervale Ave, and on the east you have North Winooski Ave. We're going to plan to have 2 speed tables throughout that area. Here's an aerial view of what those curb extensions will look like at Archibald and Intervale Ave. Again, like I was talking about before, there are kind of 3 main goals with this. One is to improve the visibility of pedestrians as they're about to cross. So if I were walking north on Intervale Ave here and I wanted to cross Archibald Street, with these curb extensions in place, I would now have a shorter distance, and cars could theoretically see me a little bit better from anywhere in the intersection. So yes, there's the visibility and shorter crossing distance. This also would visibly narrow the road, which in many cases can help to reduce driver speeds. And then getting into the crosswalk and curb extension at the intersection of Archibald Street and St. Louis Street. Like I said, this will also shorten the crossing distance and provide additional accessibility for pedestrians to Roosevelt Park and the Boys and Girls Club, those being kind of key locations, especially for young people walking through this community. We wanted to make sure that we're meeting the needs of pedestrians here who might be crossing now without a crosswalk, and making sure that we design based on people's needs here. So that's that feature, and hopefully that will help to make crossing here safer and make those areas more accessible. So the timeline for all of these features, we're going to be going to the Public Works Commission meeting next Wednesday, April 16th, at 6:30 p.m. at 645 Pine Street. That's the Public Works and Parks office. We're going to be approving the removal of a parking space to create the curb extension, which I didn't mention, but to make this curb extension work, we're removing one parking space. Now that's the only parking space removed in this whole project. So we're looking for approval there, looking for any feedback that people have on that change. In addition, this construction, like I mentioned, is we're corresponding with paving. We're working with paving on this. So we'll be doing outreach with that piece as paving comes this summer. And then also, I threw a little QR code up there. You all are welcome to scan or just go to burlingtonvt.gov/ArchibaldTC for traffic calming to learn more about the project. I think if you search Burlington, Vermont, Archibald traffic calming, that should send you there. And lastly, just getting into some other projects that are going on with our transportation team right now at Department of Public Works. This summer, we're also planning to implement bike lanes on Manhattan Drive and North Champlain Street. These are in the works and are hopefully going to be out there this summer. There's also our entire paving project, which Archibald Street is just one street that we're working on, but Pearl Street and College Street will also be paved, so just for you all to know about as well. Additionally, we just received notice that we'd be getting a grant for transportation, paving, and stormwater improvements on Cedar Street and Rose Street. So that's another intersection that we're going to be looking at. And we're going to be doing some work on the Old North End Greenway, trying to increase our cyclist safety throughout the Old North End. And that's it for now. So please let me know if you have any questions.
Gene? You got a question?
Hello, thank you very much. I was thinking about this neighborhood a bit for a while, and I think there's an opportunity. I don't know if this is at all possible, but Walnut Street, right by the school, right by Dot's Market, I have this imagination that could just be closed up to the first street to traffic, and that could become like a parklet. That would solve some of the traffic challenges in that area of making a complex intersection far less complex. People could still access their houses by going one way down Walnut until it ends at a parklet. And I'm just wondering if there's been any ideas or consideration of that possibility.
So just to clarify, you're looking at Walnut Street north of Archibald Street or south of Archibald Street?
Walnut Street connects Walnut Street between Archibald and Willow.
Okay.
Right by Dot's Market and the school, where there's a stretch of road that has no real houses there. I think that could just be or have a barrier blocking cars from being able to get onto Archibald, if anything, would be a great traffic calmer and make it a lot safer for the children at that school as they transit between the school and the parks in that area in the neighborhood.
Yeah, so thank you for the question or the comment. We, we're always looking for opportunities to do things like this where we do, parklets or opportunities to expand, pedestrian connectivity, these kind of things, improve pedestrian safety. So we can certainly look into that. Again, the focus of this is kind of on the Archibald Street project, but I can see that being a nearby thing. We can definitely look at that as kind of tying into this network So I appreciate your comment.
We'll go, Gene has.
Thanks. Hi. Just in relationship to that, you just got to be really clear about north from what is, I think, is Spring Street, really, up to, in Manhattan, and the way it curves around to Oak Street. If you close that, then what you're doing is throwing everybody up a street. And so I love the idea of having community engagement about bikes and walking and cars. And if you're going to be looking at something like that, know that, like the balloons that we squeeze, we need to make sure that we're talking to lots of people. And this is my neighborhood, so I'm pretty clear about that. But that's not why I talked. Have you talked with J&M, Judy at J&M Market on the corner of Intervale and Archibald?
We have, yes, so we have corresponded with them. They got flyers. They've heard about the project. And we've also, I believe, I think before my time, we have talked also to them about these kind of the quick builds that were out on that Archibald Intervale intersection. So they've been kept in the loop throughout the process. We haven't heard anything from them since the latest community outreach round, but they have heard about the project. They know.
My serious request is that you walk into their door and talk to them about it.
So I did do that. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
I just want to say thank you. I think it's great the city is showing some love to Archibald Street. And I was just curious, I didn't get one of the images. I was just curious about the trees, if you could talk a little more about like how many trees, where are they going, all the way from Spring to North Winooski, or?
Yeah, so I can run through some of these designs and talk about where we're planning to put some trees in. Again, this is the trees in this aspect are not going to be planted by Public Works and by the contractor. This is coordination with the Parks Department, and we're going to continue to see how many we can put in. We want to put in as many as possible, right? So I can't guarantee any numbers right now, but I do know that this area, if you can see on the west side of this drawing, and on the kind of the southwest side of this drawing, that curb extension is an area where we're looking to put trees in. That's kind of our largest area curb extension there, that being on the south side of Archibald Street, on that west side of the drawing. We're also going to see if we can put a tree on the east side of the drawing, on the south side of Archibald Street there. Again, we're working with, coordinating with our, the water systems that are running under there. We're looking at other utilities like at this intersection here, there's a utility pole on the south side of the street here, right? So we're kind of trying to get as many as we can with the space that we have. No, so yeah, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about within these areas. We're doing what we can do within the limits of our project, but we are very excited about the prospect of getting more trees on Archibald Street.
Hi. Do I stand up? Yeah, stand up. I'm Trav Fryer at Ward 2. I also really appreciate the trees, so that's probably the part I'm most excited about. I'm curious how the bump outs at that crazy intersection will affect not crazy, but the really weird geometry. How that'll affect the bus stop there, and whether you're thinking about benches there. Maybe that's within the purview of GMT, but hopefully if you do, it's not their tiny little dinky benches that they've been installing, but like a proper bench with a shelter. Just a thought there. And as an aside, curious if Hyde Street is on your agenda for traffic calming, because if we could probably use it there. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. So just starting with this intersection that you just mentioned. So we are coordinating with GMT on this installation. They know about the installation. And we haven't made any clear choices about benches or any features like that, but that's a conversation that will be ongoing about how we can make that relationship work with GMT on that lane. What's helpful is that this will make GMT buses not have to leave the lane at that stop. which helps them just continue on their route. So again, and then going to your other point about Hyde Street, I appreciate your request for traffic calming. Obviously, we have a long list of streets that are in that list, but we appreciate any feedback that we get on that, and we do take data based on requests that we get from the community. So I will make sure that is in our inventory of places to get data and look at. So thank you.
We have one here.
Hi. Oh, it's loud. I was just curious if you could, you said there was a grant that came through for the Rose and Cedar Street intersection, and I was at I live on Rose Street, and we had a meeting a month ago, can you just clarify what that grant, which project that grant is for?
Definitely. So yeah, getting back to Rose and Cedar Street, this project is for a combination of things. It's for transportation, wastewater, and stormwater improvements, and paving as well. So to clarify, the paving would be of Cedar Street through that intersection. I believe the transportation piece of this would be to remove the raised intersection there, and also add crosswalks at that intersection as well. We're still going through some designs for that, but the idea would be to do some transportation improvements as well as some necessary stormwater improvements underneath our pavement there. So lining those things up just helps us. Doing everything at once is helpful for getting all that done and not having to go back and do additional work. So that grant just came through. I think we're excited about it. I think it's great news for the neighborhood.
Can I just add something?
Totally.
Hi, everybody. Julia Ursaki from Public Works. I just want to clarify for Rose and Cedar, we just found out we got the grant, and there's no construction happening there this year. There's going to be a design process and public engagement moving forward, but the intention is to remove the raised intersection at Rose and Cedar and add curb extensions and a rain garden there.
Thank you, Calvin, for all this. So most of this table is on St. Louis Street, and I wanted to piggyback on the Hyde Street comment because both of those are used as cut-throughs, and people go flying down them. And now, for this year, we've got the buses parking in the morning and doing drop-offs in the afternoon on St. Louis, so we have even more kids. But I'm just concerned about traffic calming on both of those streets because so many people use them, and I can't believe how fast they go down there, and especially with, as you know, between IAEA and the two parks and the Boys and Girls Club, it's a big concern. And the same thing happens with Hyde Street. Everyone's avoiding that next intersection. So I'm just hoping that if you're already in the area and doing those, a couple of traffic calmings for those streets would be really helpful. Thanks.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And again, we will definitely add that to our list and try to get data when we can on that street. As far as the scope of this project, it won't be included in this project, but that's something that we can definitely look at in the future.
It seems like this project is going to feed more people onto the side streets. That's what my concern is, even more.
Interesting. I think, and I appreciate that comment. I think our thought process with this is also slowing traffic in the area creates a slower environment around, right? I understand the thought process in a cut-through street, but in general, I think improving pedestrian safety, improving cyclist safety, and slowing speeds in general, we believe to be a good thing for the neighborhood in general. But thank you.
Hi, my name is Kason. I live on Intervale Avenue, right, like really, really close to here. So I'm the person who walks every single day to work from this. So I'm really, really excited. I couldn't be more excited that we're making that intersection safer because it is really. I mean, it's not the most dangerous intersection in Burlington, but it is scary, and I'm really happy to hear it. So I just wanted to say thank you so much. And I just wanted to mention, because somebody had mentioned the benches, the GMT benches. Those actually aren't official GMT benches, the little dinky ones. They're just people putting up benches and then like chaining them. Oh, totally. Yeah. I guess GMT's putting up worse benches. I didn't know that, but yeah. Anyway, just wanted to say thank you so much for making that street safer, and also talking to J&M's, who I know is wonderful, and I go there all the time. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Alyssa, I'm in Ward 2, and I also work at IAA. And a couple years ago, they paved Walnut Street on the first day of school. And I know there's a lot to coordinate, but can we check in with the dates when Archibald is paved? Because next year's first day of school is our first day back in that building, and I would love it not to be the first day of paving.
Yes. So we totally understand that. We know about that. We're going to do our best to make sure that this comes early in the summer. We don't have total control of when the contractor gets out there, but we are going to tell them, and we're going to pester them to try to get out early on this street. We're going to do the best that we can to. We understand that that's not our ideal situation, right? So we're really going to try for early on. But again, the schedule isn't set in stone right now. So, yep. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Cool, thank you, Calvin.
Thanks so much.
Okay, so next we have Rick Singiri coming to tell us about HomeShare Vermont and how we can get involved.
There we go. Well, first of all, I just want to pump your tires a little bit. I've never lived anywhere in my life that had these kind of NPA gatherings, and I can't believe how beautiful this is. In a time when we're having challenges to democracy, here you are, and you have the opportunity to get involved at a very grassroots level, to learn what's going on, to make a difference, to be heard. You've said some beautiful, wonderful, important things to the people up here tonight, and you show up and take advantage of this, so you really do deserve a round of applause for yourselves, because it really is great what you do. So thank you for showing up too, to listen to me. HomeShare Vermont, how many of you know what HomeShare Vermont is? Oh, a good portion here, excellent. Any of you actually have done it or know people who have? That's good answers. All right, so basically what home sharing is, people who have room in their homes offer that for rent or help or a combination of the two, offer that to someone who's looking for an affordable place to live. And home sharing in Vermont started here in Burlington 43 years ago. A few senior volunteers heard about a program out in the Bay Area of San Francisco that started about 10 years before that, and thought, what could be more Vermont than this concept of home sharing, helping one another, really forming community. And so, people will offer their homes, like I said, for rent or help or a combination of the two. And so when someone applies to us, either a host who has the home or a guest looking for that place to live, we first start out by doing background and reference checks. So the number one reason people come to HomeShare Vermont, they tell us, is because of the safety of what we do, providing those background and reference checks. We have one host in Weybridge who has been a host 3 times, and she says that we're worse than the CIA and FBI put together. Thank God. And it really is important that if you're the host, that you know that the person we bring, even to introduce you to see if you want to live with them, has been vetted, and vice versa. For that guest, we're taking you to someone's home, and you can feel safe meeting them and eventually living there. But Once someone applies and we do background or reference checks, we have case managers who will then learn about what would be an ideal home share match for you. We want to know about your interests. So if you're politically active or interested, we want to make sure that the person you live with is somewhat close to you in that regard, so there's not a clash there. Lifestyle, you know, if you're someone who listens to Scottish indie rock all night long till about 1 in the morning, you know, you might not be a great match for someone who goes to bed at 8 and really prefers, you know, soft harp music as your interest. So it's a lot of little things that we have to try to connect the dots with when people apply to us, but that's what our case managers do. They find out, you know, what a person will take the guest, what they can pay in rent, where they'd like to live, what their interests are, what help they can provide. The host can ask for that rent or the help. The help that they ask for is help around the home. It's not home health care, but it's things like helping with cooking a couple times a week. It might be some light cleaning. It could be pet care or tech help. Could be running errands for them or driving them to appointments. It could just be an overnight presence to make sure, a just-in-case presence in case anything goes wrong. It could also be that someone is lonely living on their own and would like to avoid some of that social isolation that we saw that was so devastating during the pandemic. And so once we go through that process of the background and reference checks and to learn what an ideal match would be, the next step is then to try to find matches for people. And our case managers get together, they talk about it, they see if, you know, you might be a perfect match for me. They'll call you and tell you all about my wonderful habits, and vice versa, and see if we'd like to meet. And the next step is an introduction with a case manager present, and we sit down, we chat, we ask a lot of questions, and afterwards the case manager checks back with the two of us to see if we'd like to go to the next step, which is a 2-week trial. So this is a great opportunity to see if we're a good match for one another as a home share match. The other is, if neither of us have ever home shared before, to see if home sharing is the right thing for you or for I. And then at that point, if we want to move forward, the match begins. We draw up an agreement, and in it is what the rent will be, is what help will be that I'll provide, how many hours a week that will be, and then the rules of the house. You know, can I have a pet? Can I smoke, use cannabis? Can I bring friends over? Can they be overnight guests? Can they be overnight romantic guests? Questions you might not think to ask. We've had 43 years of coming up with questions. We got a lot of them. So that all goes in our agreement. And then for as long as the match goes on, you can always call the case manager if anything changes. All of a sudden, I'm leaving my shoes in the living room. I'm not washing my dishes, like I said, every night. And maybe we've had the discussion, or you don't feel comfortable having it alone. You can call a case manager for however long the match goes on for. We do set a maximum rent of $650. And even that rent right now is pretty affordable compared to what people are paying in Vermont. But because of the ability to ask for help, as people ask for more hours of help, up to a maximum of about 10 to 12 hours, they ask for less in rent. So the average that our guests are paying right now is $360 a month, which is about 1/4 the average one-bedroom apartment in Vermont, which is incredible. 25% of our hosts ask for no rent at all. They just want someone there. They just want some help. The match itself goes for as long as you and I are happy. In effect, it's a month-to-month agreement because either has a 30-day notice to end it. And so the normal length of our matches is about a year to 5 years. The average right now is about 2. We do have one that's going on 14 years, and we have one that's going on 19 years. So sometimes when we get it right, we really get it right. And like I said, you always have the ability to call your case manager. There's no age or income requirements either in our program, all right? So I know a lot of people think that the hosts only need to be seniors. Our hosts range in age right now from 27 to 98. I think 99, I think she just turned 99. And our guests from 22 to 81. So it doesn't matter what age someone is when they apply host or guest. And I will tell you that you can learn an awful lot more at our website, which is homesharevermont.com, .org, sorry. I'll stick around, I have plenty of information. And we also, I'm going to make a pitch, we have a wonderful raffle going on that helps fund us. The drawing is next Thursday. There are 6 in-stays from around Vermont. There's entries into the Vermont Marathon. There's a shopping spree in Montpelier. So if you want to learn more about that, you can see me, or you can go to the website again, homesharevermont.org. Any questions? Here we go.
Thanks for coming. My name's Lucy. I live in Ward 2 here. I've been working with people who are homeless, and I kept thinking, oh, could we find a match? And what I heard, you can tell me if this is true or not, is that there's an incredibly long wait list to get somebody into a placement, and looking at your application that you have to have like 4 or 5 solid character references in order to get through that. So people that I know who are awesome people who have really, huge need and ability to do this often get bumped out of the process. What's your experience with that?
Yeah, you're almost right. So some of what you say, there's grains of correctness there, but first of all, there's no waiting list. We have about 70 to 80 people we're working with at any given time, hosts, about the same number of guests, and it's a matter of finding the ideal match, right? And quite often in Chittenden County, especially Burlington, there's more guests looking than hosts offering. If we go to St. Albans, it flips the other way, or into more rural areas of the state. We'll have more people offering homes than people are looking. So that's one of the difficulties. It does take a long time, not because there's a waiting list, but because of our process. So I like to say it's purposeful, but it's slow. At lightning speed, we can create a match in a month. Normally, it's going to take about 3 months to 6 months, and that's if we can find the match at all. So we can never guarantee that we're going to find a match for somebody. It's just because we might not have the right host for that guest at that time that they. So when they apply, when anyone applies with us, first thing we make sure they know is that they should continue to look as many different places for an opportunity. And if during the process they find a place to live or the host finds a guest, not a problem. We don't charge a fee when someone applies. There's a one-time fee on a sliding scale based on income if a match is made. And again, we can set up a program, we can waive that. So it's difficult, yes. People have to have the time to kind of wait to see if there's a match for them. Now, you asked about the references. So we do ask for 3 references and a landlord reference if one is available. And these are character references, absolutely. And these are important. And so, we want to know from the people who are serving as their reference what their interests are, what their character is. Because again, if I'm bringing someone to your home, you want to make sure we've vetted them, we've done our due diligence. Or if you're a guest and we're bringing you to my house, you want to make sure I'm vetted properly. So it's more difficult, I'm going to grant you that, when someone has those barriers. One thing we cannot do is we can't work with someone who has been convicted of a crime against person or property. And so that's in our DNA, it's in our charter, and for 43 years, we have never had a problem in that regard. We've had a couple times people ask, how do I get them out of my house if they won't leave? We've had a couple situations like that in 43 years. Not too often, but we keep a storage facility that we can move their things into. We help them move out. If they need a place to stay for a few weeks, we do that as well. So it's tough, because I wish I could say we could take everybody and we're going to find a place for every single one, but we're not. So it's a great question, and thanks for asking it. Anybody else? Come on, I'm not that brilliant. All right, well, I'll stick around. I have plenty of information and plenty of answers if you need to talk to me. So thanks. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Rick. Thanks again, Rick. And so now we have Gene Bergman and Milo Grant, City Council representatives. There are a couple sheets of paper floating around. Yes. So there also, if you scan the QR code on the agenda, that will give you access to this document as well.
Hey. All right, I'm gonna rapid fire through a variety of things, and then have you talk about this free speech resolution. Hello, everyone. It's always nice to be here. In no particular order, just a lot of things I think are really important. We have been talking a lot the last year about the financial situation of the city. We are in May getting ready to go into what is nicknamed the Marvelous Nights of May, which is when the budget presentations will be made. Right now, those are scheduled for Wednesday nights, May 7th, 14th, 21st, and 28th, from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m., and they will be filmed by Town Meeting TV, so you can watch them live or watch them at your leisure. Let us know if you have any questions. The mayor has been talking about her Modern Gov initiative, and now there are things that are being proposed. So you definitely want to listen to her updates on City Council, which once again, filmed by Town Meeting TV. People sometimes feel like pressure to watch these meetings live. You can watch them at your convenience at any time, and once again, they will be really important. The mayor continues to do weekly meetups, so you can actually go, meet the mayor, ask questions, face-to-face, get information. When you go to the City of Burlington's website, you click on the Government tab, then Mayor Mulvaney Stanek, and the first things that come up are the meetup dates. They're once a week. There are 2 in the morning at 8 a.m. There's a midday one, and there is one at 4:30? 4:30? I think it's here at 4:30. It's usually my work schedule, so I sometimes forget. They've also added a tab when you click on the tab for community forums, which are still important to watch and still provide a lot of information on community safety issues. There's a new link, courtesy of Town Meeting TV, that has the forums together, as well as her monthly community safety press conference. So we've she's done 3 now, and so those are available to watch. There will be at our next City Council meeting, which is on April 14th, a work session to talk about the Overdose Prevention Center. So to get updates on that, that'll be really important. The provider that has been selected is Vermonters for Criminal Justice Reform, and they have already been doing really excellent work in downtown Burlington, working to help people get into recovery, also working to help people who might be justice involved due to drug activity. Sometimes you need help from that transition if you get released. That is a really sensitive time for people to relapse, so it's great that they're going to be helping with that. There was a request for, what do we call them, encumbrance. You know, not normally exciting stuff, but what was great about this is it was related to the old YMCA building. We are finally going to see some construction to build new housing there. The thing we will all need to be aware of is that once that construction starts, it's going to affect traffic in and out of City Market. It won't be two-way, it'll be one-way if you want to exit on Union as opposed to North Winooski. I recommend shopping in the morning. That's what I do, avoid that traffic. There'll be an update on FY26 recycling and solid waste. So there was the initial conversation about the possibility of getting rid of citywide recycling. This will be discussing the future of solid waste collection, a short-term idea of a bid process, which would be a 3-year contract with 1 or maybe 2 haulers to pick up recycling through the city. And then a kind of medium range, which would be to move forward toward a consolidated collection model. So that will be discussed at the 14th. And what is that? I wrote that and I can't read it. Oh, thank you, deliberative agenda. They'll be talking about an ordinance around vacant buildings and also another public hearing concerning the initiative for performing arts centers in the South End, which I think would benefit all of us, as well as a neighborhood code update. So what were the additional housing options provided by neighborhood code, and how many projects are now in process under the new code, where projects that would not have previously been allowed. So we'll be getting examples of that. And I feel like there's one more thing, but that was a lot. Public Safety Committee, planning to meet next Thursday, the 17th, starting at 5:30. And we have invited Chief Burke to come and talk to us, as well as it will be one of the final meetings of Fire Chief Mike LaChance, who has announced his retirement. And yes, that made me cry because he's just a fantastic leader. I'm very sorry to see him go, but 26 years of service in the city. So, any questions about any of that before we go over to Jane? We good? Great.
Okay. 2 other things on Monday night, and just so everybody knows, meeting starts at 6 o'clock and public forum is at 6:30. If you go to City Hall to speak in public, then you can sign up when you're there. And as long as the public forum isn't over, you're going to be able to get a chance to get in the queue. If you want or need to go participate in the public forum online, you've got to sign up at 5:30, and there's a form on that. So it's just important to make your decision and then plan accordingly if you're going to be doing it remotely. There are...
if I could, just a point of clarification, as opposed to at 5:30, by 5:30.
Perfect, yes, yes. two other things that I think are pertinent that we're going to be getting. Well, one is Battery Street. We've talked about the changes that are being thought of for Battery Street. And with all of the construction that we've got around town, it's clear that that is really far away when it comes to actuality. But there is, and there has been there's a plan, there has been, like Charlie was handing out, a scoping study. There's been a scoping study with a bunch of folks around, and that the advisory committee is going to be making the recommendation, or actually DPW is going to be presenting that with the consultants, and that will be on the agenda for our approval. It's been vetted through the TUC. I think that you'll see some major improvements in the pedestrian and bike safety component, and also as well as some greater sensibility around cars going in that area. And anybody who's tried to drive down Battery Street at the 25 miles an hour, speed limit, knows that the architecture just doesn't work. I mean, you point your car down and you're going to hit 40 before too long if you don't brake. So so there are some changes that need to happen, and you'll hear that on Monday night. And then despite our Führer's comments that it's not, that climate change is a hoax, and we've seen how all of those fine folks in the middle of the country are getting flooded the hell out, we continue to do work in Burlington around climate change, and there is going to be an update on the net zero roadmap. And that's important because we need to keep moving on, because when the idiots finally get drowned out, right, we're still going to be here getting stuck. So we best do what we can to deal with the situation, and this is what the city is doing right now. And we've got a committee called the TUC, the Transportation Energy Utilities Committee, that's been very active, and I've talked about stuff here previously, and we'll continue to focus on that. It is not on the agenda, although we thought that it might be, but there is a resolution that we will be putting on the agenda for our next meeting, which is the 28th, on the support. It's real. Although it says support of free speech, the First Amendment, the right of dissent, Rumeysa Öztürk and Mahmoud Khalil, it's fundamentally a resolution that we are bringing forward to defend the fundamental liberty that we have in this country to speak our minds, to assemble, and to not get our asses dragged into the concentration camp in El Salvador. Let's be really, really clear. The spear, the tip of the spear of the attack by the fascists on our democracy right now is around the First Amendment, and particularly around the exercise of the right to free speech by people, particularly immigrants legally here, who are standing up for the right of Palestinians to live, to avoid genocide. And that is the tip of the spear that the fascists are thrusting into the heart of our democracy. And it is my belief that the threat is so dangerous and so real that everybody everywhere has to do everything that we possibly can, because, I don't know, I lost relatives in the 30s, right? First they came for the communists back then. And at the end, there was no one left. And so we have brought forward a resolution that defends the right of free speech and actually calls out the need to defend people in the Palestinian solidarity movement and their right to speak in this country, their First Amendment rights, and to call for their release. We will have on Monday on in Burlington's District Court, the federal building on Elmwood, just around the corner, the first of what I suspect will be more than one, maybe not, we'll see how the judiciary all works here, a hearing on the legality of the proposed, well, the arrest, the abduction, and then the proposed deportation of Romesa Ozturk, whose only crime was no crime at all. It was simply to put in an op-ed that said, stop the genocide, and y'all folks who are investing in it should do something different with your money, right? And they've scooped her up. They could scoop any one of us up, me and my big fat fucking mouth, right? So this is really something. Mahmoud Khalil, no arrest warrant. They had the information wrong, and they whisked him away. He is right now suffering in Louisiana, and all of these are about the First Amendment. I go back to everybody all the time, everywhere, doing everything. We will be putting in a resolution to clearly defend the right of all people in this country to speak their minds and to assemble, to not be thrown in jail because some maniac says that they're a terrorist and conflates calling for peace and the end of genocide as support for what they call a terrorist organization. I'm not a fan of Hamas, but you know, you just can't label people as terrorist supporters because they wear keffiyehs like they did to us, or that you stand up and say that because we want to call for the end of genocide that we are supporters of terrorism. And that's what's going on. So Monday morning there will be this hearing at the federal building, and I personally would hope that folks will come on Monday night and say, stand up, Burlington City Council. Ask our governor, ask our legislature, ask every single town and city in this state to do everything you can to stop this onslaught and stand up for human rights. And that's what, in First Amendment rights, and that's what we're going to be asking you to do. Let me just sort of end with the boring political issue. We said last week during the council reorganization that we thought that the council process was broken and we needed to do more collaboration. And the first step of our attempt to do collaboration is to try to get the Democratic caucus to join with us in this, in co-sponsoring this resolution, which we have put into the city attorneys, and the Progressive Caucus has endorsed it. And we're engaged in, I think, good faith negotiations with them. One of the things that we did was to push back for a whole meeting, the right, you know, this, so we're not bringing it up on this coming meeting, but we will bring it up. We've been working, I see Paul here, with Palestinian Solidarity movement here. We'll continue to do that. And my hope is that we can work together to bring forward a strong and clear resolution that we need to do and have all members of the city council support it. It's worth the time that it may take, it will clearly take. We've already had these negotiations. You know, we're not there yet to see if we can bridge whatever differences and come to a very clear and strong and united message. And it would be helpful, I think, for people to be paying attention and going to the hearing if they can on Monday in the district court, and coming on Monday night and saying to us, please, lead, step up, stand up, speak up. And I would really love to hear people in the audience say that, because the threat is profound. It's profound. And now I've really gone on, so thank you. I'm chasing Liz out, and there you go.
Okay.
The one thing that I would add is that the idea that there's plausible deniability regarding genocide, that's just not the case. We cannot afford to not be paying attention. There is indisputable evidence. There are international courts right now working on an extreme number of cases with regards to war crimes that have been committed. The slaughter of children is particularly disturbing. And I would also say that there's movements even within Israel. There are a lot of young people who are refusing to serve in the IDF. And they are speaking out about it, and they are going to jail for it. So I think we have to be aware of all these things. Thank you. And we do need people to speak out in support of it.
And I see Liz is not quite chased out.
Thank you, because just before I go, on a more mundane level, I just wanted to share a comment from a friend who's a Howard Street outreach worker, that there's used to be Wi-Fi on the skate park and the waterfront, and that homeless people could access, and now it's not there, it's not working, it hasn't been working, and they have a hard time connecting to the internet if they're staying down there. So I was just wondering, I just wanted to pass that on for my pal who works at Street Outreach. Thank you.
Brian, can you wait 1 minute before you go? Comment about the city right now. So again, I'm Lucy Gluck, Ward 2. A couple things are happening that everybody's aware of. One is it's warming up. The warming shelter that COTS has been running is closing at the end of April. The motels are kicking people out, and there's a lot of people on the streets who need compassion, but we also need to feel safe walking down Church Street or around town. And so there's a balance that needs to happen between what's going on with people hitting the streets and doing some scary stuff and making it difficult for a lot of us to feel safe in Burlington. And I don't have any solutions, but I really want everybody to be thinking about this moment in time and what we need this summer to have a livable city and a loving and compassionate city. I have a close friend of mine who was just walking past Gray J, past the post office the other day. Guy decides to, pee up against the building right there next to the restaurant. So she said, hey, buddy, there's places you can pee at City Hall or in City Hall Park or at the library. There's public places you can pee. And he just ripped into her and said, I'm going to come after you, and, swore at her, and was really, really scary. She was really frightened. And so I don't want to see that kind of stuff happening, but I feel like we're going to have this growing time right now where there's a lot happening on the streets. So I just wanted you to hear that, Brian, and pass that on. The other thing is, I'm really glad this resolution's happening. Thank you so much. I think I was listening to Vermont Public just before I came to have my dinner, and they said that 2 students at CVU from where? Nicaragua have just been ejected from the school, from the high school. And are they being deported? Okay, so scary fucking times right now. And we all need to pull together and support this resolution, and also find ways to support each other right now. Thanks.
Thank you. So having seen what's been happening the last several summers, everything that you just mentioned is really front and center on my mind, and will be one of the things I'll be talking to Chief Burke about, and also when he comes to the Public Safety Committee meeting. I do want him to talk about that. One of the things that is really one of his tasks is to really look at the quote-unquote priority response plan, which, at least for the Central District, has not worked for us. When people do need help, when it is a priority one, they don't get help, the whole online system. We're gonna have a new pair of eyes on all of this. It's not gonna fix things overnight, but I do feel very hopeful. He's gonna be a very different type of chief, and just seeing him mingle with people, he carries himself very differently, is very, very approachable, and I think people are very glad that he's here. And he seems to be, from what the mayor says, she described it as just being very, there's an obvious change, and I think we're going to have someone that we can communicate with, who will be communicating with us. I have a very big list for him. I'm trying not to be too scary, but I am looking forward. But I will be talking to him, especially about the hot spots. I mean, we have a lot of hot spots in terms of the alleys and the areas that people can relax and spend time. We want these to be areas that are shared safely. And we do have a group of individuals that are really the same individuals causing a lot of problems, even causing problems for people who are unhoused, that don't suffer from SUD, that are just trying to get by and stay safe themselves. And I'm hoping that with the improved relationship with the new chief, who already has a very long working relationship with the state's attorney. It's not a relationship that has to be built from scratch. They have already been working together when he was a South Burlington chief, and they also know each other when he was a deputy chief here. I think that's going to really make a difference with regards to how cases are brought to the state's attorney, what types of cases are brought to the city attorney, because sometimes when you bring cases for certain individuals that we have all read about in the news, if you're not bringing a case where they can be held according to Vermont law, they're back on the street. I've been very concerned about incidents where people are getting physical with people. I kind of feel like that's the line that's been drawn, so I haven't always been clear why, when there's an instance where someone's gotten physical, that they're right back out, because it should be a different level. But I think we have someone now at the department who is we can communicate more with.
Can I be heard? Yes. Jean, I got a lot of the pieces of what you said, and what I'm missing is one declarative sentence of what's happening on Monday at the court.
I probably botched that. And so, quite simply, there is a hearing for Rosmea Ozturk, and she's a woman who was deported but brought from Tufts and transported to Burlington, and then was shipped to, I think, Louisiana, but there's jurisdiction here because she was detained here. And so...
Thank you.
Yeah, the demonstration starts at 8:30 Monday morning, so 8:30 to 9:30. The hearing in front of George, why is this one so much louder? The hearing is to determine whether there's jurisdiction in Vermont, and then if there is, there'll be a continual hearing. So anyway, 8:30 to 9:30. I think a lot of people are going to show up, so hope everyone here can attend. The one point I wanted to make about the resolution, the free speech resolution, and thank you to Jean and the other progressives. I know this is a huge amount of work to move something like this through the councils, and I think it's really important. The Palestinian Solidarity Movement and apartheid-free communities has always maintained that our solidarity and opposition to genocide and support for Palestinian liberation has not actually been primarily about there, it's primarily about here. Because what happens there boomerangs back. And we are seeing this right now with a vengeance. The rulers of this country are taking away Social Security, health care, housing, the future for millions of working class people. And they're suppressing our ability to resist and protest. And they're going after what they think is the weak link in the chain. And that's the Palestinian solidarity that both parties have demonized for the past year and a half. And they're looking at what they think is the weakest link in that, and that's immigrant students who stood up for Palestinian rights. So our kind of slogan around this is their first line of attack needs to be our first line of defense. And I think, as Jean said, they're coming for every form of resistance after whatever they can get away with. So I think this is really important, and we need to spread this and ask everyone to join the fight around this.
Case.
Hi, Milo. I just have a question about, I heard you mention that on Monday there might be something coming before the city council about, sorry, this is like an obsession of mine, I've talked about this before, about vacant properties in the city and like how much we're charging folks who just kind of sit on these vacant properties. Do you have any more details about that?
There are fees, and we're adjusting the fees that are attached. One of the problems that we've got is that we cannot, quote unquote, tax them to try to get them out. It's based on the administrative cost associated with having to deal with them, because you can have fines if they are not doing what they're supposed to do. So we are adjusting those upwards. They probably will not be at the level that most people think that should happen. You look at the Boves property, and I think you sent us a letter, and we passed that on and said, what the heck is going on, in terms of enforcement? Because the truth of the matter is, I can't be the only attorney in this history of the city who prosecuted slumlords and vacant building owners. It's just wrong. For those of you who don't know, I was a city attorney for 20 years, and that was my portfolio, and I brought criminal charges against landlords and tried to enforce our vacant building ordinance. And so we've got work that is not ordinance related. It's just, like administrative enforcement related that we have to do. This is a step to clarifying, simplifying some of the definitions and making them clearer. The problems that we had of enforcement with the Handy's building on Pearl Street, we're trying to take care of with this change. And we will be looking to increase to the point that's reasonable and that we can defend it in court, because unlike the Fuhrer, we do believe in the rule of law. Yeah, that's where we'll go, but I do think that the questions that you raised in your email to us that we passed on need to continue to be made. If we got 12 emails that said, what the hell's happening with the Boves property, the old restaurant? Why is it all boarded up and no action is taken? That would actually be pretty cool. I would encourage you to write me an email that said simply that, and I will pass it on to the code enforcement director and said, can we make sure that Ricky, actually, his father was Dickie, that Ricky Bove gets off the dime here. So yeah, thanks, Kason.
I will actually say the Bose property at times has been the bane of my existence, because at one point people were dumping massive amounts of garbage, furniture, just, it was a dumping ground. So I was going back and forth with our code enforcement, and they would send me pictures. Hey, these are the pictures they took. They cleaned it. I said, well, whatever's going on, it's there again. They need to go. And it's different stuff, I can tell. Someone is just using it as a dumping ground. They've built a fence. They've been keeping it a lot cleaner. And as of actually a couple of weeks ago, they've put up a sign. They are trying to now sell it. I can't remember, if anybody walks by, you'll see the realtor's name, and you can go to their website. They are trying to sell it for a heck of a lot of money, and they are pushing it as a developer's dream. So they want someone to come in who'll be a developer, who will use the property that building's on, and then they own like the property behind it. And I think they had a deal for was there some kind of deal with the parking lot? I can't remember. They own the parking lot. So they're looking to sell it to someone, and they're pushing it as a developer's dream, and it's 1-point-something million. But yeah, if you go look at the sign, you'll be able to go to the website and pull up the information, because I was like, oh, what's that? Yeah.
Greed knows no bounds.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mila. Thank you, Jean. Thank you all for being here, being a part of this community. We do have a door prize. It's a $15 gift certificate to Scout. Oh, and a candle? Okay, so two separate.
So I'd recommend taking a big one and taking a small. These are huge.
Will Anderson. Nice. So why don't we give out this Scout first, I guess? Okay. And then Maggie Adams.
That concludes the April meeting.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Travis. Thank you, Hannah.